wagering decisions. My name is Alex Chan. My Twitter handle is Ian Lazarin. Thank you for joining me this evening. We will be previewing tomorrow's first round NBA playoff games. First off, I want to let you know about a deal that BetQL has right now. You can get 20% off any BetQL subscription by signing up with the promo code of Chan, CHAN. You can choose the subscription plan that works best for you. You'll gain access to the BetQL model, which will assign a star rating to each bet. 5-star and 4-star bets are considered the strongest ones. And the subscription will also provide you with information pertaining to how the public and sharps are betting, as well as any line movement. Now, I want to start off with the Pacers and Heat game tomorrow afternoon at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And even though it's not the first game, the reason I'm starting off with it is because it's the free play that BetQL is offering on its website. The over-under on this game is 216. The model has taken the 4 points. The Heat are 4-point favorites against the Pacers, and the model has taken the 4 points of the Pacers as a 5-star bet. The model has under 216 as a 3-star bet. And even though BetQL shows that even though the Heat have received 65% of the public support, 48% of the money is on the Pacers covering the spread, which suggests some sharp and professional support for Indiana. Now, the Heat have defeated the Pacers in 3 of their 4 meetings this season, with the only Pacer victory coming in a meaningless game on the final day of the bubble. The Pacers will be without the services of their lone all-star Domantas Sabonis. 2 of the 4 meetings occurred in the bubble, while the 2 occurred before the season was suspended in March. Now, the Heat have received a lot of buzz as a potential Eastern Conference title contender, and I don't really see it. The Heat have become increasingly reliant upon Duncan Robinson getting hot from the three-point line. The Heat, as you know, finished second in the NBA in three-point percentage this season, thanks to Robinson's shooting. The Heat were 21-13 for a point differential of plus 5.2 whenever Robinson hit 4 or more three-pointers. But when Robinson was unable to hit 4 three-pointers, for example, whenever he hit 3 or fewer three-pointers, the Heat were 23-16 for a point differential of 0.89. So basically, whenever Robinson was scorching hot from outside, the Heat were an elite team. But when Robinson had a more pedestrian game from the perimeter, the Heat were pretty much a mediocre team. The Pacers allowed the 6th fewest three-pointers per game this season of any team in the league. So this is a good, interesting matchup between a three-point shooting team and a team that prides itself in defending the three-point shot and has been successful in defending the three-point shot for the better course of this season. The Derek Jones Jr. is listed as questionable for this game, and his availability may be more important than you think. If you remember, in the last game, Derek Jones Jr. left the game with a neck injury from a moving screen from the pace Goja Bitadze. The Heat only have 4 players with a value over replacement player rating of 1.0 or higher, and Jones is actually one of them. He averaged 14.3 points and 56.6% shooting from the field in the 3 meaningful games that he played against Indiana. So before placing a wager on this game, I would consider Jones Jr.'s availability, even though he might not seem like a particularly important player. He has been an important contributor to the Heat in their series against the Pacers, at least during the regular season. Now, the Pacers' TJ Warren has struggled against the Heat this season. He only averaged 10.3 points per game and only shot 35.5% from the field against Miami. I think everybody remembers the on-court altercation that he had with Jimmy Butler back in one of their previous games before the bubble. And Butler has definitely gotten the better of Warren in this series. The 2 Pacers Heat games that took place before the bubble finished well below the total of 216 in this game, whereas the 2 Pacers Heat games that took place before the season was suspended exceeded. So let me reverse itself. The 2 games that occurred after the bubble finished well below 216, but the two Pacers and Heat games that took place before the season was suspended exceeded 216. So that is a look at the Pacers and the Heat. We will start with the first game on the docket tomorrow, which is the Bucks and Magic, which will tip us off at 1:30 Eastern Standard Time. Now, there's not really that much to say about this series, since we all know that the Bucks, barring some unforeseen event, will likely win this series. The Bucks are 12-point favorites in Game 1. The over/under in this game is 225. Now, BetQL was one of the first sports betting entities to report on the streak of the over being hit in 15 straight games involving the Orlando Magic. Orlando was absolutely rolling offensively during this time period. They were running their offense through Aaron Gordon and Nikola Vucevic, and Terrence Ross went on a heater from the three-point line during this streak and stretch of overs being hit by Orlando. And Aaron Gordon was, I would say, the key to the streak. In the 14 games that he played before he was injured in the Magic's last game with Toronto during the bubble, Gordon averaged 17.3 points, 8.8 rebounds, and 5.9 assists during that stretch. Those would easily be the best numbers of his career when extrapolated to an entire season. So his availability, Gordon's availability, is in question for tomorrow, as he hasn't played since Kyle Lowry somewhat injured him in the Magic's last game with the Raptors. So that's what, if you're looking at a total in this game, or if you're actually even considering taking the points of the Magic, you may want to wait to see if Gordon is going to be cleared to play before placing a wager on the Magic or the over. Now, the Bucks have defeated the Magic all 4 times they played this season. In 2 of the games, the Bucks beat the Magic by more than the spread of 12 points. The other 2 games were 11 and 9-point Milwaukee victories. The Bucks are 17 and 17 against the spread when they're favored by double digits. So if you're worried about Milwaukee covering such a large spread, you probably have good reason to be. You may want to consider a first half bet, which is currently Bucks -7. In the 4 games against the Magic, the average Bucks first half margin was 14.75 points. And in all 4 games, the Bucks finished the first half leading the Magic by double digits. So if you're concerned about laying such a huge number with the Bucks, you may want to consider laying with the Bucks in the first half, as they've absolutely dominated the Magic in the first half in all 4 games that they played this season. And none of the prior, if you're considering a total, one thing to consider as well is that none of the prior 4 games between the Magic and the Bucks exceeded 225 or even came particularly close to it. Now, you can get 20% off any BetQL subscription by using the promo code CHAN. You want to go to the website, which is betql.co. You can Google BetQL, and it will lead you to the website where you can log in and choose a subscription plan that works for you. You will also gain access to other sports like hockey, baseball, and the upcoming NFL season, and hopefully what will hopefully be an upcoming college football season. So definitely, if you're considering signing up for a BetQL subscription, type in the promo code CHAN. You will get 20% off any plan that you choose. The third game that we will review is the Thunder and the Rockets. That tips off at 6:30 p.m. Standard Time. The Thunder are 1.5-point favorites against the Rockets, and the over-under in this game is 225.5. I actually wrote an article previewing this game. It's on the BetQL website. And one of the things that I think is interesting about this game and this series is that even though the Thunder are favored in Game 1, the Rockets are actually still favored to win the series. And the reason why the Thunder are favored to win Game 1, despite being underdogs in the overall series, is that Russell Westbrook will at least miss the opening game due to a quadriceps injury that he sustained during the seeding games. And Westbrook's impact on the Rockets' offense cannot be overstated. Last season, the Rockets' pace was 98.39, the 4th slowest in the league. The Rockets' offense last season pretty much consisted of James Harden dribbling the ball into the ground for much of the shot clock and then either scoring or having a teammate shoot a three. Now, this season, the Rockets' pace was 104.04, the second fastest in the league. Even though the Rockets are still shooting a ton of threes, they're getting more opportunities. The Rockets averaged 119.1 points per game in the 57 games that Westbrook played. But in the 15 games that Westbrook did not play, the Rockets scored to 6 points per game. So Westbrook, in terms of how the Rockets performs, and the Rockets actually had a net negative point differential of minus 1.2 in the 15 games that Westbrook did not play. So that's a negative point differential of minus 1.2. Now, as it relates to the Thunder, this is a revenge game for Chris Paul, since he was effectively traded by the Houston Rockets to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Westbrook and Chris Paul essentially swapped teams because the Rockets did not feel that Chris Paul could take them to the next level. So this is somewhat of a revenge game for the point god, so to speak. If you've been betting the Thunder ATS this season, that's been a fairly profitable proposition. At least if you bet them early on. The Thunder started off 34-16 ATS, but the Thunder have regressed significantly recently. They are only 10-11 against the spread in their last 21 games, and their offense has certainly struggled in Orlando. Their field goal percentage has fallen significantly. They've had trouble hitting shots. They've shot a league worst 42.5% from the field. They've also averaged 15.6 turnovers per game, which is the sixth worst turnover average of any team in the bubble. That's certainly a surprise for a team that's being steered by a point guard as careful as Chris Paul. So, this is a very interesting game. The Thunder have defeated the Rockets in 2 of the 3 games they played this season, but all 3 games occurred before the Rockets executed a midseason trade involving Clint Capella and transitioning completely into a small ball team. When Westbrook has not played, James Harden has averaged 38.1 points per game. So for you DFS bettors, Harden's value should be very, very high tomorrow, since his usage is going to be incredibly high tomorrow. One caveat is that the Harden did struggle against the Thunder this season. He only averaged, and only is by Harden's standards, he only averaged 28.7 points per game. He also shot terribly. These percentages are a little tough to believe, but he shot 32.8% from the field, and he shot 15% from the 3-point line. Those are not typos or misprints. Harden shot 32.8% from the field and 15% from the 3-point line against Oklahoma City in 3 games this season. So that is the caveat to expecting a ton of high usage from James Harden. Now, in terms of the total in this game, the Rockets have been maddening to bet. It's been maddening for people all year to bet an over with the Rockets. You would think, the Rockets are they have this potent offense. Overs are going to clear easily. Well, that hasn't really been the case. I mean, the Rockets over/under record is just 29-42. And without Westbrook, the Rockets offense is subject to just a ton of variance. They failed to score 110 points in 7 of the 15 games that Westbrook missed. So even though the total of 225.5 in this game seems low by Rockets standards, the Rockets it has not been profitable to wager on Houston over it all season long. And I know that it's been frustrating for me. It's probably been frustrating for you too. So this total is not a guarantee to hit under any stretch of the imagination. The final game on tomorrow's docket is the Lakers and the Blazers at 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. The Lakers are 5.5-point favorites. The over/under in this game is 2-29.5. And what more can be said about this game, other than the Blazers have been an over bettor's dream? 8 of the 9 Blazers games have gone over in the bubble, including the play-in game on Saturday afternoon. The average final total score in Blazers games in the bubble has been over 249. Betting on the over in Blazers games has been as profitable as betting on the over in Tampa Bay Buccaneer games during the last NFL season. I think that's the best analogy for the Blazers. You can't stop them, and they can't stop anybody. The over has been hit in 25 of Portland's last 33 games. So think about the Magic's streak of overs and double it, and Portland's clearing overs at a 75% clip during a 33-game stretch. So the Blazers over has arguably been the most stable and safest bet in the second half of the NBA season. The Lakers have defeated the Blazers in 2 of their 3 meetings this season. The one victory by the Blazers came in the Lakers' first game at home following the death of Kobe Bryant. Damian Lillard averaged 30 points in the 2 Blazer losses, but he scored 48 points in the 1 Blazers win. CJ McCollum failed to score 20 points in any of the 3 games against the Lakers. The Lakers were a complete mess during the bubble. The Lakers lost 5 of their 8 games, and their offensive rating of 104.5 was the 3rd worst in the bubble. The Lakers were already a bad 3-point shooting team, but their average number of 3-point field goals per game fell to 9.9 during the bubble, the 2nd worst average in the league. They were only ahead of the Washington Wizards. All 3 Blazer-Laker games this season went over the total that's been set by odds makers in this game. Now the Blazers have been a trendy pick to win this series. The Lakers are minus 500 favorites, while the Blazers are odds are plus 365 per odds set by DraftKings Sportsbook. I wouldn't draw too many conclusions from the Lakers' performance in the bubble, as they had nothing to really play for a while. The Blazers had everything to play for. One other caveat to those 3 previous Lakers-Blazers games is that Jusuf Nurkic did not play in any of them, and Nurkic has been another source of offense for the Blazers during the bubble. So we have 4 very interesting games tomorrow. We will be coming back tomorrow night at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard, another big data show. We will be previewing what will be game 2 for many of the first round matchups we finished with today. If you use a promo code of Chan, you can get 20% off any BetQL subscription. You have an option to choose whichever plan works for you, whether it's weekly, monthly, or yearly. You can choose however big a package or however small a package you want, and you'll still get 20% off any BetQL subscription. The subscription will pay for itself. The model has been on fire, and you can save yourself a little bit of money by using the promo code Chan on any BetQL subscription. I want to thank you for taking the time to join me this evening. Hopefully the data that we provided you will assist you in making a positive EV choice with your betting tomorrow. Please join us tomorrow night at 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Until then, stay safe. Good luck with your bets. And thank you for joining the Big Data Show on QOL TV. Thank you and good night.